Hey guys, it's Josh from J&P Cycle, and we're back at it today in the garage working on the custom build. So we were having some complications in the last segment, as you'll see in the final product of the video, getting this linkage to work. This is the 1996 XR250 linkage, and it has the grease fittings and everything, which is what we wanted to use. Unfortunately, it's offset to the left side, as you can see. So what we ended up having to do is use the original linkage from the XR200. And so far, it's all went together pretty good. We do have a bit of a space on this side, which you probably can't see in the camera with it not tightened down, but we're gonna put a washer in there, this is the perfect thickness. So we're gonna put this washer in here, and that should fix the issue. We already got the swing arm hooked in, and it's lined up very nicely. It's perfectly straight, so we should be good now. So at this point, we're gonna have the linkage together, and then we're gonna get working on getting the shock mounted as well. So basically, when you're building this, you're gonna need your original XR200 linkage and a spacer as such to get it to be put together. Also wanted to share with you guys, we picked up a Yamaha BW200. So we actually traded my grandfather's XR250 for this, and not that we really needed another bike, but we just thought it'd be cool to get a big wheel bike. We've never had one. So we're gonna probably take it down to the trail a day and clean it up a little bit. Hard to get parts of these old bikes. So yeah, this is something we picked up. It's just cool. It's just a cool bike. So not a big Yamaha guy, but the big wheels are certainly interesting. So we'll probably take this out on the trail a day and clean it up some more, and get some new plastics, and clean up this tank a little bit and get new stickers on there. So try and make it look as nice as possible. But it's a great little bike, and starts easy, and it is definitely unique to ride. If you've never ridden a big wheel bike, it's totally different than a regular dirt bike. It doesn't quite want to turn when you want to. So anyway, that's just a quick update on that. And like I said, we're gonna continue to put this together. I'll probably throw a time lapse up, and I'll just kind of explain as we go the rest of it. So thanks for coming along for the custom build. And like I said, we got a lot of stuff in the pipeline. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that button. It's free for you, and it helps our channel, motivates us to put out great content every week. So thank you so much for coming along and watching our videos, and enjoy the rest. Thanks.
Hey guys, welcome back to another one. It's Josh from JMP Cycle. So today in our video, uh, basically we're going over the kind of the how-to on how to mount up newer XR250 suspension to an XR200. I know there's plenty of documentation out there on how to do that with a 86 to 89, but there's pretty much nil when it comes to putting together the suspension and the swing arm for a newer XR200. So there's a few adjustments you'll have to make to get that to all work. A couple things we ran into here was the linkage, as you'll see in the different segments of the video. Getting that correct linkage in there. We ended up having to use the XR200 linkage, which doesn't have the grease fittings. I wish it did, but it doesn't have it. We ended up going with the XR200. We greased the best we could and then put it together. New brake pads and the rear caliper, so that's ready to rock and roll. We're able to piece together all the levers and things to get the rear brake working. At this point, we were just trying to tap the rear brake pedal in there and get that working. Fairly difficult process, but we ended up getting it together. So that was pretty much what we did in this particular segment right here. Basically, we were just making sure everything was lined up properly in these shots, just to make sure that everything was proper. Essentially, the biggest problem you'll have is just lining up the XR200 linkage with the 250 swing arm. We had to use a spacer in there, as we pointed out in another shot, but you have to put a spacer in on the left side. The shock, we had to tap it in because it's a pretty tight fit to get that in there. So not terribly tight. I don't think there's too much tension on it that would cause a problem. But we did have to put some spacers on that right-hand side of the top of the shock too, which I'll show in another shot. So pretty much those are your main hiccups when putting these pieces together. This shot here, we were working on getting the washers into place for the top of the shock. Like I said, on the right-hand side, there was quite a bit of space there, so we ended up putting in 4 or 5 washers. I think it was 5 washers on that one side. We drilled them out downstairs and got them to the proper diameter so that the bolt would be snug against it when we put that together. So no rattling there. Everything was very tight and a successful install. That is the easiest we've ever had putting in that airbox. For some reason in the past we have really struggled putting airboxes in bikes, but that one went in super smooth. So the word to the wise on that is slide it in the back of the frame and tilt it to one side, and it literally went right in. So if I ever have to do an XR200 uh, airbox, that is going to be the way I'm going to do it. So basically just make sure you pop it in the back. As far as the rear wheel, I had some trouble getting that lined up when we initially put it in. Wasn't so bad once we got it figured out. We typically don't work on bikes with disc brakes. Typically we work on older stuff or just regular 200s, so this is kind of a little bit outside of our wheelhouse, but we were able to get that all lined up properly, and seems like it all went together pretty nice. It's nice having an 18-inch wheel for tire selection. And we put new uh, brake pads in there as well to get that wheel all set up in the back. Um, the chain guard was actually bent, so we popped that chain guard off and bent it back into place so that it would set snug against the wheel there, just to make sure that we weren't getting any drag from that piece. So yeah, we got those parts together. Everything seems to be lining up really nice with this bike. So looking forward to getting this thing out on the trail. I've put a great deal of thought and effort into making this thing not just a custom build, but something that's just really fun in the woods. And I think as far as 200s go, you really can't beat having an 18-inch rim plus the disc brakes. It's really truly the best upgrade you can do. So in this shot here, we were working on the alignment of the front wheel. Had a little bit of an issue with that. Got everything tightened up, and I think we were missing a spacer. We ended up having to pop that spacer in there. We were looking around trying to figure out where we put it. When you work on bikes like we do, and we're fairly unorganized, you tend to lose stuff. So hate to work that way, but half the time we're always in a hurry to get stuff done and just kind of messing around. So yeah, it's just something we can work on, do a little better if we would take our time and you know, just be more diligent about putting things in the right place when we put stuff away. We were having a hell of a time getting this motor in here, mostly because the brake had already been hooked up, and I thought we wouldn't be able to get to the brake with the swing arm there. So we ended up having to take the brake back off to get the motor back in place. So we just popped the brake back off, and then we got the brake back together, and then I was able to get the motor in pretty easily after that. We tried it a couple different ways. You're always supposed to bring it in from the right side of the bike. If I was standing behind it, it would be the right side, or if I was standing in front, it would be my left. So, um, the motor just kind of sets down in there. We always leave that side cover off of the bike, or the CDI boxes, so it's easier to get the motor to clear, and then we put that on when we're finished. So, um, if you want to make it easier on yourself, just leave that cover off on the side and just pop it on when you're done getting the motor in place, because it is a tight fit. Not to mention, when you have a bigger swing arm on there, you'll have to make some adjustments to the auto decompression lever. Basically, that helps to start the bike, and it's in the way when you're trying to get the motor in place when you have a bigger swing arm like this. So we were able to just kind of work that thing in there and got all the bolts tightened up. The the brake on the back of this bike kind of fought us the entire time. So uh, that's just one of those things you got to deal with when you're working on something that's a little different than stock. There's always something you got to change, or as somebody said on the forum the other day, change one thing, you got to change three others. So couldn't have been a truer statement.
All right, we finally figured this all out. We could use the parts off of the 200. What we did is we used the bottom parts, this thing here,
So basically the linkage from the XR200.
all the linkage, and then what we did was we took the 250 shock, but it's offset, so, but it has a small cap on the top, so we had to use shims. We had to shim it with 4 washers on the right side to put it into the proper alignment to get it straight.
Yeah. So we had to use some washers. They're super tight in
Okay.
there. We actually had to beat them in with a hammer. So they're nice and tight, no wobble at all. And we also used a washer, like I mentioned before, on the left side right here, where this bolt comes in. So we used the bolt from the...
Because it was a 1/16 of an inch shorter, this hub, but it was in center, which we needed because the other one was offset. We couldn't get the thing together with it offset because everything went out of alignment.
Right.
But everything is in perfect alignment.
So the other thing we had to do, Pat just did, is when you do these custom builds and you have this...
You have to run your shock up almost as high as you possibly can, then move it back down a little bit.
Right, and then also the decompression lever, this cable that usually has plenty of room when you have the stock swing arm on there.
Now, this one's fine.
It
The other
doesn't
one
quite fit, so we had to bend it just a little bit.
Just a hair, just the tiniest little
just to
bit,
get
so
it
it
to
doesn't rub this
swing arm or
swing
case.
arm.
Yeah.
or the case. So it just clears the case. It just clears the swing arm.
We had to take that brake off because that was fighting us, but the airbox went in really easy, which was surprising.
Yeah, the brake fought us getting the motor in because you couldn't get it tipped in far enough with the brake. Kept cutting into your hand.
So yeah, that's the update.
And we had it a little high to begin with too. It might have been able to do it if we would have had it in the proper spot to start with.
Yeah.
Because we had it up a little bit.
So yeah, that
I'm
was
just
just
concerned right now is if when we put this foot peg on, are we still going to be able to get
Clear
enough
it?
lever on the brake
We
to get
should.
brakes?
We should.
We'll have to check
We'll
that
check
out
it.
for clearance. If not, we'll have to bend that bar a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, so that's just a quick update. We're going to go back to time lapse here and get the rest of this motor mounted in, and then that'll probably be all for today. So, thanks.
So we got the motor mounted up here at this point. We just started to put the motor mounts in place. We never tighten anything until we have them all lined up just so. If you tighten something ahead of time, then you won't have any wiggle room to get your other mounts in. So basically, you want to just leave yourself some wiggle room so you don't have to take everything out. We were using the 1/2 inch impact today to take things in and out because we typically have trouble with getting ahead of ourselves, and sometimes we tighten things before we should, and then we got to take it back apart. So it was nice to have the DeWalt with me today. Always handy when you have the right tools, and we actually made ourselves a little workbench here too. That way we didn't have to bend over the entire day, because that's the part that that gets me, having the herniated discs in my back and my neck. It's harder on me for working on things, especially in the garage. But really happy with how this bike is turning out. It's going to be a lot of fun in the trail.
Hey guys, we're back here for the final part of today's work. We went ahead and got the motor mounted, got the front wheel, rear wheel, the swing arm, the linkage, everything kind of put in its right place. So really surprised at how well some of this went together. Some of it was a bit of a learning experience, and I think at the end of this I'll kind of detail out what exactly you're going to need to do to make this work if you're going to build something similar. So basically I'm just going to take you through it. We have a disc brake up front. This is off the XR250 from 1996. We got the XR250 forks, the triple trees. This all bolted together, no problem. So that was good. Let's see here, what else we got? We got this piece here. We're going to have to make a mount for that, or figure out a way to make that mount up. So that's a project for another day. The kickstand's gonna have to be lengthened. So we're gonna cut that, weld in a piece, and then paint it. Like I said, the linkage earlier, we went with the XR200 linkage. So you're still getting a ton of lift off the ground compared to the XR200 stock. And I'll go over seat height and how much of an increase we get from that. We went with the XR250 peg here, or brake pedal, so that actually worked out well. We cut this off of the other bike and welded it to the frame, so that's the reservoir for the rear braking system. New rear brakes on it. The ones that were on there were shot. The front's fine, so we're going to stick with those. 18-inch rear wheel, which the stock 200 has a 17-inch stock rear wheel. So you're going to get a little bit better hill climbing because you have a longer swing arm, and a bigger rear wheel gives you more tire selection at 18 inches. So bike's really coming together. Going to order a new air filter and some filter spray because we don't have any. We have a bolt for that, but we're going to have to find it. So yeah, that's kind of the update for today. Everything's coming together really nicely, surprisingly, for all that we had to do. So we're just kind of trying to get the bike cleaned up a little bit, and things are starting to come together. So look forward to more riding this summer and getting this build finished, which is going to be great. So really looking forward to taking this thing for a ride once it's done. With the disc brakes front and back, it's going to be really competitive, one of a kind of bike. And you know, there'll be some folks that say, oh, it's not that special. Well, you go ahead and try and build one. It takes a lot of work to make this thing happen, and a lot of time and thinking and how to engineer this. This is not just a bolt together bike. This is a custom build that takes a lot of your time and your effort to put together. So that being said, appreciate your guys' viewership, and we will see you in the next one.